just between countries. But I've learnt over the years that it's actually three-layered. We have the nations, which we constantly think of. So, you know, the difference between the French countries and English-speaking countries, but it goes beyond that. We even have cultures, what we call middle layer, between states versus states. And some classics of that, and I'm going to give you some Australian insights here, is between different states. In Queensland, life can feel more relaxed and informal. It's actually referred to as the friendly state. You go to Sydney, and they're not quite so friendly. They are extremely busy running from A to B. And so culture feels very different within the same side of Australia. Then should we head across to the west? I mean, that's just a whole different ballgame again. They would like to be their own country, and they're big enough that they could be that far enough away. But things are different. Words that we use are different. I don't know whether you've experienced that, but a simple example is if I was to say I was wearing togs in Queensland, you'd know exactly what I meant. But for a Victorian like me, they're bathers. I had no idea what togs were. As a 10,000 Toes coordinator, we have a merchandise called, what am I going to call them? They're called flip-flops. In PNG and TPUM, they're called slippers. So when I started talking about flip-flops, people had no idea what I was talking about. We have many different names, and then of course you have thongs, which in America means something totally different, and we're not even going to go there. So different words, different expressions, different responses, and when you make a faux pas, sometimes the reaction you get can be really off-putting. I'm sure you've all had and can think of examples. And then we have the third layer that research tells about, and that goes right down to our homes and our families. Can you think of those? I know that when I married Glenn and became a Townend, oh my goodness, that was a culture shock. Now, we both come from Adventist families, so there were certain things that were very similar, but my family is small and my husband's family is huge. So on the first Christmas, when I got invited to come and join the family Christmas, I pictured, I don't know, mum, dad, his siblings, and not too many others. When I arrived at Stuart's Point, there were 75 of them. That was a culture shock. I felt very reserved. I didn't know they did things that were very different to my family. We often think culture is something between countries, but the deepest culture differences are often sitting at the very same table. And I think as we look around Australia, we can definitely see that. We're very multicultural. Then here at this campground, SPD for Christ, look at all the cultures that are sitting here. Some of the challenges we face is what happens when we enter somebody's culture and we feel uncomfortable. What do we do? I'm going to give us a few examples of this to start off with, and then we're going to have a discussion. We all think our normal is normal, but it's not. My normal is only normal to those that do life with me. Sometimes it's our body language. Now, starting off in this very first photo, a lady sitting there with her feet out in front of her toes pointed. That is how I grew up in a primary school in assembly. You had to sit on the floor with your toes out in front of you and sit very still. In some cultures around the South Pacific, that is not normal. That actually shows disrespect. And if we're not aware of that, we can very easily offend somebody by the simple matter of sitting on the floor. Then we come to the top quadrangle on the top there, healthy choices. Now, we're not here at this point in time. I will touch on 10,000 Toasts a little bit later. But saying no in some cultures is very offensive. Sometimes I've had to learn the hard way that my preference is not to eat in between meals, but if I was to say no, I actually offend. Now, my intention is to keep myself healthy. I'm doing it for a good reason, but unknown, it can sometimes be offensive. Then we have punctual versus relational. Have you ever been somewhere and you're having a meeting start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and nobody rocks up? In the Pacific, that's quite normal. For a Westerner, that can be very frustrating. And we need to understand the differences so we don't get upset. Generosity or too much. Now this point here is more about sometimes we prefer to serve ourselves and to be very independent. In different cultures, to serve you is the most important thing that they can offer you. I grew up in a home where my dad did not attend potluck lunches because he didn't like the fact that somebody else had been touching the food, not physically touching it, but using the same dish to serve up. And I had to, as an adult, spend a lot of time working on my dad to try to get him to come along to church luncheons because he was missing out on social interaction. But socially, that's just not what made me feel good. So it can be our body language, it can be food, it can be our time and even the sharing of food. All these things, same table, different meanings. None of these are right or wrong. They are just experiences that shape our culture. And we have all had moments, I'm sure, when that is the case. So as we can see, this topic is addressing more than just the top layer. Now, I don't know, are there any Australians here that have ever been to the Pacific? All right, yep. Are there Pacific Islanders here that have ever been to Australia before these meetings? Yes? So I've got one hand, I assume there's a few others. So it could be quite of a shell shock when you've arrived in Brisbane trying to get to camp. You may have found that getting the transport was a little bit difficult. I actually heard of somebody that slept at the airport because they missed the bus that was bringing them here. In some countries, you would know who was coming and you wouldn't miss anybody. But unfortunately here in Australia, it's different. When a bus comes in, everyone gets on board, you don't leave your spot and you go. So we all do things differently. We just need to be aware and how we react to those things. So whether you're stepping from Vanuatu to Australia, from Solomon Islands to PNG, or from Australia out to Nauru. The next 4 years with SPD for Christ, many of us are going to have the opportunity to go to different cultures. But as I started off in the beginning, even if you're not going on one of those experiences, you have culture right around you. And so you have the opportunity to consider these things. I want us to have a little bit of interactive time, and I'm going to put up 4 discussion points, and if you can discuss in your row or in your area, what is your first response to the question? All right, because there's no right or wrong. I just want you to see whether you come up with the same answers or whether there is differing thoughts, even as we sit in this room. So they're up there. Scenario 1, someone is very quiet in a group discussion. What do you immediately think? Scenario 2, someone asks personal questions the very first time you meet. The next one, someone immediately starts helping without being asked. And scenario 4, someone says yes very quickly. So just take the next few minutes, get to know each other if you haven't met each other before, and give a response to each one of those of what's your initial reaction to each of those scenarios.
That's what she's doing.
My name is Michelle. My name is Ross. I live
And so finish up on the point you are making, and we'll pump it together. All right. I love the discussion. I don't really want to interrupt, but culturally, I'm a choleric, so I'm going to. Is anyone would like to share the first one, some options that someone is very quiet in your group discussion? What could that possibly mean? Just call it out where you are in a nice loud voice. All right, they could be shy. Ah, yes. So it could be a respect thing. Yes.
also
Hierarchy. Yes.
personal
Yes. Right. Very good. And the answers that we're giving, it's interesting that we are answering because we've journeyed and we have experiences and we respond accordingly. What about the second one? Someone asks personal questions for the first time. Who feels comfortable when and it depends how it's done, but some of us feel comfortable, don't we, when we meet someone for the first time? It might show that they're interested, or it might show that they're snooping. once again, it's your past experiences that's going to shine a light on how you respond. Have you ever been in a situation where you've met somebody and you've just gone, whoa, you're asking a lot of questions. Are you wanting to find out about my child? Are you wanting to find out about the nominating committee that just took place? You know, what's your reason behind? Or culturally, are people so important that that's what you do? But in other cultures, we are very reserved. We hold back. Someone immediately starts helping without being asked. Any thoughts, any feedback there? What were some of the things you discussed?
They want something.
They want something, Shay. Makes you nervous, eh? Expected?
Yeah. I think ask someone if they come back with 2 months. Expecting to make this shit.
Yes, okay. Yep. Anyone else? I did hear somebody else. Does somebody else want to share?
You do it over, that's straight thinking. Someone like me.
They don't like you doing that, so it's that. Okay. Yes, so once again, culturally, there's that respect and hierarchy thing that, yes, please, Pastor, don't do that. You're making me feel as though I'm not doing my job as a member if you have to do it. Yes, very interesting. Someone says yes very quickly. I don't know that we have a lot of that problem, do we? Sometimes I'd like people to say yes a little bit more quicker. But it does happen.
That's the problem that I face.
Okay.
I'll say yes because I'm the pastor, or because, so yes doesn't mean yes I agree, or yes I do. It means yes I understand, or yes I respect you, or yes for all manner of things. But it's actually no.
Very true. Yes, I hear you.
As an health professional, when I very especially with and I'm serious, so say this, but I would say, see, you guys will stand in front of the best. Oh, I know them. So they just, so do you do it? Yes. And then see them next.
That's quite normal. Common, yes. And I think, I don't know, actually let me ask the question at this point in time. How many people in the room are going to be going to TQM for Christ? I want to see your hands up nice and high. Just helps me understand. Good. All right. Thank you. So the next little section that I'm going to go through probably reflects TQM for Christ for those that are going. But remember the 3 layers that I talked about. That even within your own, if you're from Australia or whatever culture, there are cultures within cultures, aren't there? So as we go through this, some of it you'll go, oh yes, I can relate to that. And at the end, I'm going to give you opportunity to add to, because obviously I don't have all the answers, but this is a point of discussion so that we become aware that how I was brought up, the experiences that I've gone on my journey, created the lens that I see everything that happens. So when I go to somebody else's culture, I wear my lens. And today the idea is that we broaden that lens so we don't get shell-shocked. Because if you've ever been into a culture where you have struggled, there are real symptoms. Some people withdraw, some people can become loud and talk way too much. And sometimes we bring our culture so strongly that it's not appropriate in the culture that we have entered. So that's some of the things I want us to think and consider as I go through this. So when we head to the Pacific, This is the general respectful dressing culture etiquette. Guys, when you're doing business work, it's the long trousers. Obviously, if you're going to a watering hole, you're not going to be wearing long trousers. One should be sensible, but there is an expectation that the ladies will wear skirts or dresses that go to the knee and beyond, and that shoulders are covered. You'll see in this picture, this is actually in Papua New Guinea when we're up there at one of our meetings. There is the cultural. But what about church? That's the next layer. So I want to talk about that just quickly, because different cultures, there are different aspects, and you can even think about this in Australia. We have very formal churches. We have churches that are at plants and schools where dress is a lot more casual. And so it's important for us to understand where we are going to worship. If you were going to go to the Cook Islands, which this picture here is, it's very, you will wear your suit and your tie, and the ladies most likely will wear a hat. If you get up to preach and you've got an open neck shirt on, that's not going to be seen as respectful. So if you're going to one of Samoa, America, Samoa, Tonga, particularly Tonga, if you don't take a jacket with you, you will be wearing one. It might be 10 sizes too big for you, but you will be wearing it. All right, so just keep that in mind. Do your research beforehand. In other places, in Fiji, the longer skirt, the shoulders covered, but footwear is not an issue. You could wear a nice pair of flip-flops, and that is very acceptable. Never done it in Australia, but I did it a lot when I lived in the islands. I remember the first time I thought my mother, who passed away, would roll over in her grave, because that was just not on. You wore your high heel shoes, or, you know, it was drummed into me, but it's totally different. You need to be aware. Food. Food is a huge thing. And the reason I'm going to talk more about food here, this is where my 10,000 toes comes in. The 10 most obese nations in the world. Do you recognise any of the countries on the bottom? 8 of them are from our division. It's not actually a badge that we should be proud of, but it is a badge that we need to wear because it's a reality. So it is the fastest growing chronic disease, that's diabetes. And so I will be talking a little bit about that later, because I would like for those that are going out to the islands for you to understand about the 10,000 Toes campaign, because we are now, well, we will be next month, because we go to Niue. We are in 13 of those Pacific countries, and they are proud of the 10,000 Toes campaign. And so if you want to fit in, I would encourage you to at least learn what it is that the 10,000 Toes campaign is all about. That way you will have something, to talk and connect with, and it'll also give you the opportunity to understand what is happening. Diabetes is a major, major issue in the Pacific. So much so that every 20 minutes somebody is losing a toe, an ankle, the bottom part of their foot, or above their knee. They could be turning blind, but in this particular one, it's every 20 minutes losing a limb. Why is that? Because Western society introduced lots of unhealthy food items into the Pacific culture. And now we are paying the price for that. And so I'd like to encourage you, if you are going to the islands in July or August, please don't pack a suitcase of junk food, lollies, chocolates, because all you will be doing is feeding into the issue that we have and reinforcing
that problem, whereas 10,000 Toes has spent 8 years trying to impact in a positive way. Here in Australia, if I get sick, I can go down. I notice there's even a doctor just 2 blocks down. I can go and see a doctor. I can have regular checkups. I know what my health status is. In our Pacific countries, that is not the case. They do not have a doctor just down there in most cases, especially in the remote areas. They do not know that they are pre-diabetic. The latest stats for Fiji that just came out in February by the World Health Organization is 98.6% of people have one NCD, which is a lifestyle disease. Do you get that? 98.6. So that means 1.4% of the people are healthy. So if we don't encourage and demonstrate and live by the standards ourselves, all we're going to do is impact it when we go there in July and August. So you can jump onto 10,000toes.com, and if you're interested, you can actually have a look at the 10,000 Toes website there. There is even an opportunity for you to look at the video and become an ambassador. And that would be very exciting for the countries that you are visiting. If you arrived and you said, oh, I'm a 10,000 Toes ambassador, immediately you are breaking down barriers and opening up opportunity for discussions. All right. Food is very costly in the Pacific. So when people offer you food, and it's different to what your culture normally is, and that goes right across every culture in the South Pacific can face this. Even coming here to SPD for Christ here in Brisbane, I am sure there is food that is being served up that you're going, oh my goodness, I'm not sure that I can eat this for the next 5 days. That's what happens when you travel. And food is costly, and carefully, thoughtfully in the islands and simply prepared. And remote areas, food will be scarce, so you might consider bringing nuts, muesli bars, and protein powder if you are vegetarian. They will serve you fish a lot out there, and that's fine. Food is a sacrifice of love and honour, so be careful of what you eat to start off with. Otherwise, you will need to make sure you have Imodium and things like that, because you'll get an upset tummy. So just keep that aware in the back of your mind. Come prepared. I've actually lost my place, so we'll just keep going, eh? Jewellery. I'm going to touch on this one. It sometimes can be a sensitive issue, but in the islands, jewellery, they don't understand why it's necessary. So if you've got a teen that's going out there, have that conversation that we don't want to shock our Pacific country people and feel uncomfortable by the fact that we are wearing loud jewellery is probably the way I would phrase it. Come prepared for all sorts of sickness. I remember once I was in Kiribati and I got a shocking migraine and a bit of flu, and I had some Panadol, but within a day I had used it up. So I said to my husband, can you just pop out and get me some more Panadol? And we discovered very quickly that Panadol isn't available in Kiribati unless you go all the way to the hospital and have an appointment, and it was a very bumpy road, and so I just toughed it out. You need to bring things yourself. Do not think that it's easy accessible. So there's just a little personal hint that I experienced the hard way. It was not easy. And due to time, I'm just going to go past this impact story. I've already shared where we are across the Pacific with 10,000 Toes, and there is just quickly the feet going up to show you all the countries. And if you're not sure where you might be going, then you might be able to see here also that location. Basically, the 10,000 Toes is about equipping villages to prevent, detect and manage lifestyle diseases, training up the local people so that they can live longer lives, and also helping our health professionals have a understanding of wellness, not just the medical aspect of life. I encourage you as you go to make sure that you research, connect with the person from the country that you're going, but even more to the actual location, because some of you will be going to cities, others of you will be going to very, very remote areas. And to have an understanding will help you reduce the amount of surprise that you will get. Reach out, ask questions, get onto the internet and ask people. And if you're not coping, acknowledge it. And if somebody in your team is not coping, pull them aside and talk to them, because they may not realise that they are in shell shock, in culture shock. And it is important that we encourage each other. Due to time, I'm actually going to leave it at that, because I actually want to give us an opportunity that if anybody has got some pointers that they would like to share, that would be valuable. Adriel, you're from the NZPUC, and I know we're not going to you to the year after, but you have missions. Are there things that you feel that would be valuable for people to hear from your experiences, your journeyed in not just the health space, but in life generally, because you've got Niuean heritage in you, so you have a very specific culture as well. If anybody else has got something that from your country that you go, please be aware of this. This is the time to share so that we all learn and grow.
I think it's covered the points from welcome. I think that the aspect of respect is the most obviously important one, but I love the way that you said we always go into culture with our own lenses on. And even though I am Niuean, I don't actually come from Niue. So even myself, when I go to Niue, we have to be respectful and cognizant that they do things differently. And so just that whole, when we're going into the villages, we just have an understanding of who's in charge of the village or who the head of the village is, and all of those sorts of things. For our French speaking, the biggest challenge I have is that I don't speak the language.
You don't speak French.
And so
Yes.
sometimes the nuances of what I'm saying in English needs to be thought through. And the greatest challenge I have when I go to French polyplastic is when I have something that I'm doing a talk, the easiest thing is to have it written in English, but in large letters, because the person who's translating obviously speaks English. And if you say a word that they don't understand, they'll look at the word in English and then they can translate it into, yes.
That's good.
Sometimes it's easier. But speak slowly in order for the translation to be effective. Yeah, pace yourself when you're speaking.
Has anyone else, maybe there's a question that you would like to ask that hasn't been covered, that you're wondering, you've got a question in the back of your mind? Yes, I can see a hand.
Thank you very much. Pastor from Niue. I'm from Solomon Island, and I would like to comment regarding food. In terms of food, I know that most of our pastor will come, President will come to Solomon Island, even for us in Niue. We have our district pastor, and if, like for food, it's how we show respect, honor to those who come into our village. And sometimes it is really hurtful if what we see that it's best we give and it is being rejected. So my advice as a pastor, if we can have a good dialogue between those who will come into the village or community and church leaders who is there in the village, in terms of our dietary plan, what we the timing that we will eat, and the type of food that we will eat, so that there will be some form of understanding between the Adventist community and the villages of how we have this program. So, because we have our culture, those who will come in will have their culture, so there must be some form of understanding somewhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Very important. Adrian and I just met with Pastor because we're going to New A next month. We must keep that conversation going so that we actually address these things so there's no surprises and no hurt and no misunderstanding. Any other comments or questions that you might have?
I had a comment. For those of us who are Pākehā or Pālangi or white fellow, white man, whatever, there's often this feeling of why do I have to change my way of doing things instead of them adapting to me? And the question is, because you are being adapted to constantly, you just don't know that it's happening. You're being accommodated all the time because often Western culture is the default culture. So it does fall to you to be the one to learn and adapt and compromise, because that has been done for you throughout your existence. You just didn't know it was happening. So just open your eyes, ask questions, and one of the big things that helps is building trust, and that obviously can take time sometimes, but making the effort of finding out, of communicating and talking go a long way to building those trust relationships.
Very true. And it's very important to listen.
Yeah.
Don't do all the talking and learn. Learn as much as possible. It's an exciting journey when you immerse yourself in somebody else's culture and you get close to them and they open up to you, because they will if they trust you. Yes?
I don't know about the South Pacific,
Yes?
but on a trip to Mongolia many years ago, did 2 trips, and I was most grateful because beforehand we spoke with somebody who told us just little things that would benefit us, because the Mongolians in those days, and I'm going back to like 2004, they saw Americans and Australians coming in, and something like a shower cost $1 US. Now, that was so much money. And so the guys that were teaching welding, they needed to shower, so they would do that. But I wasn't. I was teaching English. And so I would go and have a shower when the interpreters went and had a shower, which was every second day or so. They would join into one, but I would have my own. But sometimes it's a cost. And it's something that is not what we would normally do or practice, but that made such a difference in their eyes to see that we respected them. When I found out that the interpreter who was with me, in her school where she worked, she was getting $1 US was what she had for a week. Do you know, so when you see the context, then it's not cost at all. But I think just knowing beforehand so you're prepared for that
Exactly.
is so important.
Thank you.
And I know I really benefited from that. And can I add this? It then allowed God's culture to be seen above our individual cultures, because that's the most important thing. Is our cultures, when we have given our hearts to Him and His culture, so we build that togetherness and that unity in one. And the other individual cultures, yes, they're there, but they pale into insignificance.
Yes, thank you very much. We need to go with an open heart, open eyes, open ears, and let God take you on a wonderful journey. It'll be a blessing. Even if you do get a little bit shell-shocked, there will still be a blessing, and that's all right. So I'd like to take this opportunity. Sorry, Adriel.
And observing is really important too. If you're not quite sure, just observe. What I find when I go to, especially like a place like the books, they drive at a much slower pace than we do. You'll always tell when the plane has landed in the cooks, because all of these high cars are zipping around the place. But just observe the way that things are done.
Yeah.
And adapt.
I think one of the biggest tensions for Westerners is time. You need to, in Fiji, it was called Fiji time. You're going to PNG, it's the land of the unexpected. The plane may go or it may not. It might, when we're going to PNG for Christ, we all finally got on board the plane and we're all cheering because we're actually heading 3 hours later. And then the hostess says, sorry everybody, we've just realised it's a little bit too dark. By the time we get there, we won't be able to land. So you're going to have to stay, we're going to all get off. And we all went, oh, but that's what life's like. Just go with the flow and enjoy. And it's the same if you're in Australia. As I said, there are many cultures, even within our churches. And sometimes that's where the tensions within our churches occur because we want it our way. May God bless you as you keep connecting with people. And I just pray that for those that are going to TPUM for Christ, that you will have a wonderful opportunity. And if you want to talk to me afterwards, please do so. But at this point of time, let me pray a blessing on you as you leave. Our dear Heavenly Father, you have called each person in this room to these meetings this week. And that's not by coincidence, but by your design. And we just pray that as they go around the workshops, as they connect with people, as they connect with different cultures, that we will start observing and being aware of what is happening around us, and not just always thinking that our perspectives are the right ones. May the lenses we wear be your lenses, Lord, and come with a heart of wanting to serve so that we can be of benefit to you and the people that we connect with. Just bless each person here now as we go and head off to other workshops. We thank you for the opportunity to spending this time together. In your loving name, amen.